that is with reference to the history of India, consider following. So this is another very interesting question. Aurang, see, Aurang as a word is mentioned or has been mentioned there in the case of the Mughal India. All right. So in the Mughal period, Aurang used to be the in charge of the warehouse. All right. So औरंग जो है मुगल पीरियड का ये टर्म है जो कि दिया हुआ है सतीश चंद्रा के मोटी वाली बुक में, ठीक है। तो औरंग वहां पे आपको मिल जाएगा, खासकर मिडिवल इंडिया के एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव स्टाफ्स के बारे में पढ़ेंगे तो औरंग वाज इन चार्ज ऑफ वेयर हाउस इन द मुगल पीरियड. Bania was definitely acting as an agent because Bania as a class was a varied class. I can give you one example from West Bengal only. So see, in West Bengal, the Bania was also acting as an agent of the Britishers. And this is very nicely explained even in Shekhar Bandyopadhyay's book of From Placid to Partition. बहुत अच्छे से उसमें एक्सप्लेन किया हुआ है बनिया के बारे में, ठीक है। तो वहाँ साफ साफ लिखा हुआ है कि बनिया was also acting as an agent of the British East India Company who used to bring the products from the villages for the Britishers in living in the town and the urban areas. That was the role also of Bania, who's also acting as a Banjara or a merchant to carry forward the trade of the British East India Company on the behalf of the company only in the villages. That was also a role of Bania. So Bania was not only involved in money transaction or money lending, but also in the business transaction under the British East India Company. That's actually the point. Mirasidar, of course, they were in the court of, in fact, the Marathas. So Marathas or also Mysore. So Maratha and Mysore's time, these Mirasidars were designated as a revenue payer to the state. So of course, the same concept was carried forward also by the Britishers when they implemented the concepts like Rayatwadi system in India. So in the Rayatwadi system, the Mirasidar practice was continued. This concept was borrowed by the Britishers from Maratha and the Mysore Empire. Fine, it was borrowed from there only and continued as a organized scale in terms of collecting the revenue for the Britishers from the farmers by this Mirasidar class of officials. So there was a designated revenue payers to the state in the Rayatwadi system. Okay, that is Mirasidar concept. So here answer is 2 and 3. Okay. Then your question number 22. So say question number 22 is again completely on this particular part of history, which is always favorite of UPSC. And I keep telling to all of you to read and reread at least one book that I want to share with all of you. And this is the book. This is one of the compulsory reading for all of you. And I won't say the read entire book. I mean, of course, this entire book can't be read by you because it's more than 500 pages are there in the book. This book is read for those, or read by those who actually have history as an optional. Fine, but not for GS perspective. But definitely there are few chapters in this book, which is, I would say, indispensable. This is a book written by A.L. Basham, that is The Wonder That Was India. And this is some those books of history which everyone should read in their life. All right, if you want to really know about the ancient part of Indian history. Fine, that too without any element of biasness. That is a very important point. So of course, in that way, you can see in this particular book, there is a chapter number 7, which is indispensable for everyone. And I keep telling to this issue right from the beginning. कि बिना इस chapter को पढ़े हुए, if you're going for your prelims, then you are committing a blunder. All right, and that's what actually may have happened to many of the candidates. So idea is, what is this issue all about? Let us just say that. See, Asthaviravadins belong to Mahayana Buddhism. So obviously not. Asthaviravadins, they belong to the Hinayan. All right, so not Mahayan. So that is what actually is the one of the offshoot of the sects of Buddhism. Fine, which actually got created during the time of the Asoka only in the 383 BCE. All right, so that's what actually was the story of Sthaviravadins. So Sthaviravadins and Mahabhasikas, they also were the offshoots of the Buddhism, in fact. All right, so Asthaviravadins were highly ascetic. They wanted to live a highly ascetic life. On the other hand, the Mahabhasikas, or the followers of Mahayana, in fact, in that way, they were basically believer in the comfortable life and also worshipping Buddha. So the worshipping of Buddha statue was a idea of Mahayana Buddhism, not Hinayan Buddhism. All right, that is the point. So this is Sthaviravadin also part of Hinayan, not of Mahayana. So first statement is incorrect. Then you have Lokottarwadin sect was an offshoot of Mahasangika sect of Buddhism. That's correct. Because Mahasangika or Sthaviravadins, they all came out at the same point of time as a sect of Buddhism. So Lokottarwadin, which used to talk about supernatural Buddha. So Lokottarwadin was one of the sects which used to talk about Buddha was a supernatural human being. So that is how Lokottarwadin sect also came into existence. Fine, so that is the point in second statement. Second statement is correct. Then you have the third statement, that deification of Buddha by Mahasangikas fostered the Mahayana Buddhism. Just now I have stated. So I just stated deification of Buddha was a brainchild of Mahayana school of thought. So by this logic, third statement is correct. So 2 and 3 are correct. First was incorrect. Fine. That is the point. So answer is here B. Okay. How many of you are having this book? That is The Wonder That Was India of L. Basham. Afridi, did you read it?
No, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir.
I didn't get your voice clearly.
No, sir, I didn't read it.
Any one of you having this book?
No, sir.
None of you. All right. So I'll do one thing. My DTP operator will come maybe on any of their days in the next week, in the coming week. I will get this particular chapter scanned and I'll send it to you. Or rather, I will ask Abhishek sir or maybe Avantika ma'am to send it to all of you to read it out personally, because this is one thing that you have to do it. That is something indispensable, I would say, in that particular manner. ठीक है? तो आपको बुक खरीदने की जरूरत नहीं है, मैं स्कैन करवा के भिजवा दूंगा, ठीक है? वो पढ़ लीजिएगा आप लोग, ठीक? All right, so let's get to the next question, question number 23. Another interesting question, and I have already explained it. In fact, in one of my videos that I have put up on my YouTube channel, I've already explained this particular issue. That is, which of the following statements correctly explains the impact of industrial revolution on India during the first half of the 19th century? Now, see, anyhow, railway would not be the answer. Why? Because railway got developed only after 1853. We all know about it. तो anyhow railway तो होगा नहीं, तो railway वाला point तो गया, खत्म हो गया इसी तरीके से, ठीक है? तो C answer होगा नहीं. बचा Indian handicrafts were ruined. So there's a concept of deindustrialization in modern India. So if modern India, if that has been taught to you, probably you may be having some fair idea about the concept of deindustrialization. So deindustrialization in India took place in the 18th and early 19th century, in fact. All right. And in that way, Indian handicrafts were completely swept away from India. Therefore, it is called as, this period was called as the period of deindustrialization, which had been criticized by Maurice de Maurice as a myth of deindustrialization in India. So there is a debate in deindustrialization of India in the era of British colonial period. So in that way, this question has been asked, and this is also given there in the NCERT. So there's nothing to be very worried about. So if you go to the NCERT, so in NCERT Modern India, this chapter has been nicely explained. One of the best explanation of NCERT Modern India is about the economic impact of British rule on India. उसमें ये साफ साफ दिया हुआ है, ठीक है? So A is the answer over here. Let's see question number 24. Question number 24 is one of those surprising questions for many of the candidates who may not have been doing justice with history part. Now see, why I'm sharing this thing, because normally teachers in many of the institutes, which I have also know and I have seen also people teaching history, they have always been compromising this particular part altogether, because neither the students are in focus of this part, nor even the management of the coaching institutes are in focus of that part. Therefore, UPSC has understood it, and UPSC has understood it that people do not read, or hardly read, in fact, I would say, hardly read the period between ancient and medieval era. In fact, that is the period of post-Gupta to the period of the, you can say, the beginning of Sultanate period. So between post-Gupta and Sultanate period, there's a huge period, 500 years. because Gupta period declined by 550. All right, 550 AD or CE in that way. So by 550 to 1200, you can understand there has been more than 500 years involved in this particular period. तो ये 500 साल का जो भारत का इतिहास है, लोग उसको भुला चुके हैं. ठीक है, उसको लोगों ने ऑलमोस्ट भूल चुके हैं कि क्या था भारत में वो 500-600 साल. ठीक है, या तो उनको पता है गुप्ता और गुप्ता तक कहानी, हर्षवर्धन तक की कहानी, उसके बाद वो भूल चुके हैं हर्षवर्धन के बाद हुआ क्या भारत में. उसको सीधे वो याद करते हैं सल्तनत की कहानी कि कैसे मुस्लिम इन्वेजन हुआ और कैसे कैसे जो है यहाँ पे पॉलिटिक्स चेंज हुआ, कैसे कैसे चेंज हुआ. तो कहानी यहाँ से यहाँ तक सिर्फ, लेकिन 600 साल में हुआ क्या भारत में, वो 600 साल का इतिहास नॉर्थ इंडिया के केस में लोग गायब कर चुके हैं. ऑलराइट, साउथ इंडिया में भले पता हो कि हाँ पल्लव चालुक्य चोला का एरा आया, लेकिन नॉर्थ इंडिया में क्या था, दे हैव ऑलमोस्ट फॉरगॉटन इट. एंड एग्जैक्टली यूपीएससी इज टारगेटिंग दैट. जो आप भूलेंगे वही यूपीएससी आपको याद करवाएगा. That is what actually is typical story of UPSC. So exactly what they have done, they have started asking questions also from that area which has almost been forgotten by the students to prepare as far as history is concerned. So therefore in that context only, see the 4 statements have been asked, and all these 4 statements have been asked in the context of only understanding the chronology of that era. So chronology of that era, how? Let's see Pratiharas. So see Pratiharas and Chalukyas and even the Palas, now they were the, of course, rulers, or small rulers in fact only, of small kingdoms in north and central India. Fine. So from there only this question has been asked. So rise of Pratiharas under King Mihir Bhoj. His full name was Mihir Bhoj. That was a period of 850 CE. So 850 में मिहिर भोज का पीरियड था. ठीक है. Establishment of Pallava power under Mahendra Varman first. See, Mahendra Varman first was a contemporary of Harshvardhan in that way. So Mahendra Varman first was a period that his period was around 550 CE. So 550 CE would be the first option here. So 2 is already going to be the first option in this particular question. Then you have establishment of Chola power by Parantak first. See, Parantak was very much known for Battle of Talikota, Takola. So this Parantak first, he fought this very famous battle, and that battle was fought somewhere around 969, all right, CE. So his period was 950 CE onwards, all right, that is Parantak first. Pala dynasty was founded by Gopal, it is correct. So obviously this Pala dynasty was founded by Gopal in 750 CE after the demise of Harshvardhan. So this is how Pala dynasty was formed. So 750 would be the Pala dynasty. Now you have got the age or era in fact. Now you have to arrange them chronological order in the, of course, in the ascending period, ascending order. So बढ़ते हुए क्रम में आपको इसको अरेंज करना है. तो आपको करना क्या है कि पहले आप 2 को फिट करेंगे कि पल्लवा पावर पहले आया, 2 पहले आएगा. फिर उसके बाद पाला गोपाला आएगा 750 वाला, तो 2 4 पहले आएगा. फिर 4 के बाद 850 का भोज आएगा, और फिर 950 का आएगा परांतक 1 का एरा. तो यही हो जाएगा आंसर 2413. ठीक है, दैट इज द करेक्ट आंसर. ऑलराइट, then you have question number 25, that is in the context of Hundi. So Hundi is very famous. I just told you post Harsa period mein this issue was there, and Hundi was basically a form of transaction and a form of transaction that used to take place. So of course it was a sort of a diary to be maintained for daily accounts. No, it was not that. It was a bill of exchange in fact. So it was a bill of exchange, that was Hundi. All right. So what used to be Hundi? Let's try to understand. I give you one small example. Now when there was no system of carrying huge cash from one place to another place, and then also the transaction had to be conducted. Now what could be the method of conducting a transaction without carrying a huge amount of cash, or let's say huge amount of precious metals like gold? क्योंकि आप मान लीजिए बंगाल में रहते हैं और आपको गुजरात से ट्रेड करना है, तो बंगाल में रहने से और गुजरात जाने में आपका जो डिस्टेंस है उसमें आपके ऊपर बहुत सारा रिस्क भी है अगर आप कैश लेके जाते हैं तो. अभी तो लॉ एंड ऑर्डर है तो भले आपको रिस्क उतना नहीं दिखेगा, लेकिन उस जमाने में जब लॉ एंड ऑर्डर नहीं था तो लुटेरे और डाकू और डकैत सारे रास्ते में घूमते थे. तो ऑब्वियसली यू कैन नॉट कैरी सच ह्यूज अमाउंट ऑफ मनी टू डू अ ट्रांजेक्शन इन द स्टेट ऑफ गुजरात. तो कैसे होता ट्रांजेक्शन? ट्रांजिशन होने का पॉसिबिलिटी यही था कि एक बिल ऑफ एक्सचेंज बनेगा, मतलब एक पेपर डॉक्यूमेंट बनेगा जिसमें एक मोहर लगेगा। मोहर किसका लगेगा? जो इंपोर्टर है उसके उसके नाम का मोहर लगेगा। वो मोहर इटसेल्फ इज अ सॉर्ट ऑफ अ क्रेडिट इन द नेम ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर इंपोर्टर। तो सबके नाम पे नहीं हो सकता था, लेकिन डेफिनेटली जो बड़े बड़े बिजनेस हाउसेस थे, कलकत्ता में हो या गुजरात में हो, जिनको लोग जानते थे, उनके नाम पे ये हुंडी बनता था। ठीक है, और ये हुंडी हुंडी लेके उनके बिहाफ पे जो मर्चेंट्स है वो जाते थे और वहां से वो सामान लेके आते थे, और हुंडी जो पीस ऑफ पेपर होता था वो उनको दे देते थे कि आप ये ले लीजिए और इस हुंडी के एवज में आप कुछ भी और भी मंगा सकते हैं कहीं से भी, और कोई भी और ट्रेडर इसको एक्सेप्ट कर लेगा। तो ये हो गया हुंडी कॉन्सेप्ट। तो हुंडी कॉन्सेप्ट बिल ऑफ एक्सचेंज होता था, जो कि पोस्ट हर्षा पीरियड में काफी ये डोमिनेंट मोड ऑफ ट्रांजेक्शन होता था इंडिया में, और चलता आया। इनफैक्ट वो आज के डेट में 1960-70s तक इंडिया में ये चलता था, अब अभी भी चलता है बहुत सारे लेवल पे। अब कमर्शियल पेपर वगैरह आ गया है, लेकिन हुंडी सिस्टम अभी भी बहुत सारे लेवल पे ट्रेडर्स के बीच में चलता है, दैट इज बिल ऑफ एक्सचेंज। ठीक है, लोकल जो ट्रेडर्स होते हैं वो अभी भी इसी पर ट्रांजेक्शन करते हैं। One of my friends, he is in the business of textile industry, so he still uses this bill of exchange in the form of hundi to actually conduct one of the other mode of transactions. ठीक है, तो ये हुंडी अभी भी चलता है लोकल लेवल पे, दैट इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट। ठीक है, तो ये पोस्ट हर्षा पीरियड में ये भी था इशू। Then question number 26. Now question number 26 is one of the toughest questions as far as history questions are concerned. See, with reference to the book Deser Katha. Now, Deser Katha is a very popular book in Bengal. Now, those who actually have a very fond, you can say, attachment to the Bengal culture, now they must have already gone through the Deser Katha. ठीक है, तो बंगाल कल्चर से जिसको ज्यादा प्यार है और मोहब्बत है, जिनको जानने की इच्छा होती है, वो ये बुक पढ़ते होंगे, ये पढ़ते हैं इनफैक्ट। तो देशर कथा जो है, ट्रेडिशनल बंगाली फैमिली में लोग जो पढ़े लिखे फैमिलीज होते हैं उनको वो पता होता है देशर कथा क्या है। तो ये सखाराम गणेश देउस्कर के द्वारा लिखा गया था, तो क्वेश्चन में ही बताया जा रहा है। So of course, what is there in this particular story? So see, it is one of those famous books as far as the early 20th century of India is concerned, when the anti-partition movement was being led in India against the Britishers. तो उसमें ये काफी फेमस बुक था, और दिस सखाराम गणेश देउस्कर जो थे वो देवघर है झारखंड में आज, जहाँ पे अभी भी बहुत ही फेमस रिलीजियस प्लेस है। So he was from Devghar, and since Jharkhand was also part of Bengal at point of time, entire Bihar was also part of Bengal. So of course he belonged to Bengal only in that way. And when partition was announced, he actually opposed it, and finally he also wrote this book. This is called as Desar Katha. ठीक है? So Desar Katha में उन्होंने colonial state के conquest को criticize किया, और साथ साथ उन्होंने स्वदेशी के लिए background बनाया। Let me tell you one thing. ये पहली किताब है जिसमें स्वराज नाम का वर्ड यूज किया गया था पूरे भारत में। इससे पहले स्वराज किसी ने यूज नहीं किया था, ये शायद बहुत कम लोगों को पता होगा। ठीक है, स्वराज के बारे में कि सबसे पहले किसने यूज किया था, लोगों को पता है दादा भाई नेहरूजी, और लोगों को पता है लेट्स से लाल लाजपत राय एटसेट्रा। ऐसा नहीं है। स्वराज इज अ वर्ड वाज नॉट इवन यूज्ड बाय अरविंदो घोष, नॉट इवन लाल लाजपत राय, नॉट इवन लेट्स से द दादा भाई नेहरूजी। इट वाज फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यूज्ड बाय सखाराम गणेश देउस्कर वाले। सो स्वराज का जो बात है, जो कहते कॉन्सेप्ट है, पहली बार इसी देशर कथा के बुक में लिखा हुआ था। उसके बाद से सबको स्वराज स्वराज स्वराज, और Aurobindo was a friend of him. So Aurobindo started using this concept of Swaraj in the context of self-government or self-independent government of India. और इंडिपेंडेंस के बारे में, सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट के बारे में Aurobindo ने इसी से इंस्पायर वो हुए थे। ठीक है, दैट वाज द स्टोरी ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर देशर कथा। तो अब ये क्या है कि अब किसको ये पता होगा? ये सबको नहीं पता होगा। नाउ सिंस वी वर taught in मास्टर्स प्रोग्राम इन दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी, तो मुझे पता था इसके बारे में, लेकिन इतना माइन्यूट पता नहीं था। I was knowing about it. This, of course, Desar Katha was a book written by Ganesh Devaskar, and here he had talked about the concept of Swaraj. इतना मुझे पता था, all right. स्वदेशी मूवमेंट के अगेंस्ट आया था, इतना पता था। So obviously, by that particular logic, I can make this out very clearly. The first and second statement would be correct. But the use of Desh by Devaskar was in the specific context of regional Bengal. Now that is not right, because he wanted to make entire India free, not only Bengal to be free from British colonial era. So 3 is incorrect. So he never used the word called Desh only for Bengal. use the word called desh for entire country, entire India. Desh. Only that is country in fact. So 3 is incorrect. 1 and 2 are correct. Fine. So answer is A here. ठीक है? See, second next question is the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Now this is the question which I just told you. In fact, at the outset, this is a question which is highly controversial. Reason being, the Hindi translation of this question has come under dock. All right. The Hindi translation of this question has gone wrong, and probably UPSC will have to reconsider its entire evaluation without considering this as a question to be evaluated. Fine. So Gandhi-Irwin Pact, of course, the answer is 1, 2, and 4 only, because anyhow, Gandhi's acceptance of the inquiry into police excess was not accepted. And if you read even, let's say I tell you one example, if you read even the NCERT or read even Spectrum, this issue is very much given there. So it is very clear that 2 things were not accepted by the Britishers, especially Lord Irwin, when they, I mean, he met with Mahatma Gandhi. One was, of course, Gandhi asked Irwin to reconsider the police inquiry, police excesses against the participants in the freedom movement, against the participants in the civil disobedience movement. So of course he rejected this offer of Gandhi. All right. And second request of Gandhi was also to release Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, and Sukhdev. But even that was also rejected because of their involvement in violence. So that's the reason why these 2 things were rejected by Irwin, and that is what we also know about Gandhi-Irwin Pact. So in that way, 3 option is anyhow not going to be a part of the answer. So 1 and 2, 1, 2, 4 would be the correct answer in that way. But the problem here is the option number 2, which has been translated in Hindi, that has been gone completely wrong by UPSC, because it is in the context of civil disobedience movement in English, but in Hindi they have given in the context of असहयोग आंदोलन. यह है सविनय अवज्ञा आंदोलन, वहां कर दिया गया असहयोग आंदोलन, इसीलिए यूपीएससी इस क्वेश्चन को हटाएगी ही, कोई ऑप्शन नहीं बचेगा उसके पास. Question 27 has this problem. ठीक है. Question number 28 is slightly tough. Why tough? Because Vittal Vidwansak, it is not known by anyone and everyone about this particular journal or book written by Gopal Baba Walankar. Now about Gopal Baba Walankar we know because he was one of the gurus of B.R. Ambedkar. All right, so we know about, if you know, I mean, study about the scheduled caste movement of India, Dalit movement of India, you will come to know about Gopal Baba Walankar. But to have this information without Vittal Vidwansak, the first monthly journal written by him, it is slightly difficult for anyone who may not have fair idea about the role of Gopal Baba Walankar. So Gopal Baba Walankar was the first among the you can say intellectuals who criticized about the Brahmanical social order and the Brahmanical social dominance in the Indian society. So therefore he wrote in this book, in this journal, in fact, about the pollution that has been created in the society due to the Brahmanical social dominance in the society. That is what was the Vittal Vidwansak book all about, or journal all about, which was written by him in 1889. So Gopal Baba Walankar was known for that particular purpose for it. Okay. Now, with reference to the history of India, the terms Kulya Vapa and Durna Vapa denote. See, Kulya Vapa, Durna Vapa, again, these terms are not very easily available. Now, it is given there in three authors of Ancient India book. तो उसमें दिया हुआ है दुर्ना वाप, कुल्या वाप और अक्ष वाप. ये सारे वाप जो है that's actually having a meaning of to sow. All right. So to bow, to sow मतलब जो आप फसल सो करते हैं. तो to sow का मतलब होता है वाप. So कुल्या वाप, that is kul means of course the clan. So clan जो सो करता है उसके बेसिस पे जहां तक वो क्रॉप को सो करता है वो एरिया हमारा हो गया. तो ये प्रैक्टिस होता था गुप्ता पीरियड में बेसिकली. तो गुप्ता पीरियड में जो मेजरमेंट होता था उस बेसिस पे होता था कि कितने कुल तक आपका कोई एक वैरायटी ऑफ क्रॉप जो है आप ग्रो कर रहे हो, शो कर रहे हो. तो वहां तक का एरिया जो है वो मेजरमेंट किया जाता है कि मान लो कि 10 क्लैन तक है. 10 क्लैन मतलब 10 विलेजेस तक है. तो 10 विलेज तक जो है वो क्रॉप ग्रो कर रहा है, इसलिए वो पूरा का पूरा 10 विलेज जो है एरिया ऑफ मेजरमेंट पैड होता है. तो मेजरमेंट ऑफ लैंड was there in the Kulya Vapa and Durna Vapa. That is the point. It was very much practiced in Gupta period. ठीक है, ये measurement of land है. Fine. Then question number 30, again interesting one, that is about who has talked about this statement. So it is Asoka, because Asoka in the Major Rock Edict 12 has very clearly specified about the principle of secularism. Alright, तो वहीं से हम इसको as a role model मानते भी हैं. तो ये मेजर रॉक एडिक्ट 12 में लिखा हुआ है ये सारा स्टेटमेंट जो आपने देखा क्वेश्चन के अंदर. तो ये जो है ये कहाँ दिया हुआ है मैं बता देता हूँ. ये दिया हुआ है एक ही बुक में, इनफैक्ट पूरे एडिक्ट्स के साथ जो दिया हुआ है उसका बुक का नाम है डीसी सरकार. सो डीसी सरकार ने एक बुक लिखी थी, सबसे पहली बुक लिखी गई है जो कि अशोका के इंस्क्रिप्शंस पे है. ठीक है, उसी बुक में सारे इंस्क्रिप्शन के बारे में चर्चा की हुई है. पतली से बुक है, मेरे पास है, लेकिन वो सब लोग उसको पढ़ते नहीं है क्योंकि उसमें सिर्फ इंस्क्रिप्शन के बारे में चर्चा की हुई है. तो उसमें सारा बताया हुआ है कि कौन से इंस्क्रिप्शन में क्या क्या कहा गया था. ठीक है, तो दैट इज अबाउट दिस इंस्क्रिप्शन इशू ऑफ अशोका. खैर, क्वेश्चन नंबर 31 में आते हैं. सी, क्वेश्चन 31 में क्या है कि यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड द फोर स्टेटमेंट्स एंड व्हाट इज अ डिस्क्रिप्शन ऑफ टर्म परमिताज. देखिए परमिताज, देखिए इसलिए मैं आपको बोला था क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट है. इस बुक में दिया हुआ है, बड़े अच्छे से दिया हुआ है, साफ साफ लिखा हुआ है उसी चैप्टर में, चैप्टर 7 में, प्रज्ञा परमिताज. प्रज्ञा परमिताज मीन्स perfection. Perfection should be the criteria to attain bodhisattva path for an ordinary human being. So women who used to attain perfection in bodhisattva path, they were known as pragya parmitas. ठीक है, अब यहाँ पूछ क्या दिया उन्होंने कि डिस्क्रिप्शन और टर्म परमिताज क्या होगा. परमिशा का मतलब होता है perfection whose attainment led to the bodhisattva path in Buddhism. That is परमिताज. ठीक है, तो ये आंसर था इसका. थोड़ा सा ये डिफिकल्टी था कि अगर नहीं पढ़ेंगे तो पता इसके बारे में नहीं चलेगा. Then Rakhmabai case of 1884. Now see, Rakhmabai case, I am afraid to say that is not available in any ordinary book. All right, now you cannot read any book where you can find out Rakhmabai case of 1884 mentioned very clearly. Now, having said that, it does not mean it is not mentioned there. The point is that yes, there are few journals that is on feminism. Now, in those journals, it is very clearly mentioned. Even in during our time in Delhi University, when I was doing my law, in the very first year, I was having a family law as one of the papers. Now, in family law, I was told about Rakhmabai case by one of my teachers who was taking the class in Campus Law Center in Delhi University. So there only I heard about Rakhmabai case of 1884, but I was knowing about only in the case of restitution of conjugal rights, not age of consent, because I read about it only in the respect of restitution of conjugal rights, not in the context of other of the options. Rakhmabai case of 1884 is actually a landmark case in Indian history because she was one of the first ladies in India who actually fought for her rights valiantly and even wrote, even connected with Queen Elizabeth. So Queen Elizabeth also had to listen what Rakhmabai wanted to say. So she went also to London to communicate to this issue with Queen Elizabeth. Let me tell you, because of her fight only, her struggle only, even in Britain, the Age of Consent Act was passed. So in 1891, Age of Consent Act was also passed in India. And let me tell you, I told in one of my lectures, in fact, when I was conducting this test series of discussion, I told the students that you have to prepare about all these acts, especially in the context of the age of marriage, because age of marriage is again in debate in the Supreme Court. So I told them very clearly that all the age of marriages you have to prepare right from the British era, in fact. But obviously not Rakhmabai. Rakhmabai case, it was a landmark case. And in the context of that, only Age of Consent Act was passed also in India in 1891. Fine. So this lady was, in fact, girl was there who got married at the age of 5 only, but she did not respect that marriage. And once, her husband wanted to restitute the conjugal rights, she challenged that. So she challenged that. That's the reason why it was an issue also of restitution of conjugal rights. And then finally, she challenged also on the ground of her age of marriage. She challenged on the ground of that in the age of marriage she wanted to pursue education. So by that logic, it is an issue of all, that is to gain education for women, age of consent, and also restitution of conjugal rights. So 1 and 2, 3, all of them are correct in Lakshmabai case of 1890, 1884. That is the case. ठीक है? So ये answer इसका होगा. Then you have question number 33, that is indigo cultivation. So why it got stopped or declined? It is all due to the invention of German dye. लिखा हुआ है NCERT में भी साफ साफ कि जर्मन डाई बन गया था तो इंडिगो का डिमांड जो है कम हो गया था, इसलिए उसका प्रोडक्शन धीरे धीरे कम होना शुरू हो गया इंडिया में. ठीक है. So indigo declined due to the unprofitability of indigo in the world market due to the new inventions in the coloring. जर्मन डाई इन्वेंशन हो चुका था, साइंटिस्ट ने सिंथेटिक इंडिगो ने उसका प्लेस ले लिया था, इसलिए वर्ल्ड मार्केट से इंडिगो का कल्टीवेशन, इंडिगो का डिमांड कम हो गया, सो इंडिगो कल्टीवेशन भी धीरे धीरे कम होना शुरू हो गया. सो आंसर इज बी हियर, दैट इज करेक्ट आंसर. ठीक है. देन योर क्वेश्चन नंबर 34. Question number 34, you have the Fort William College at Calcutta, because answer is D. They wanted to train British civilians for administrative purpose in India. That we all know about it. So it's easily available anywhere. All right, NCERT में भी दिया हुआ ये बात, उसमें ज्यादा कुछ बात करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Question number 35, that is Ulgulan or Great Tumult. Of course, it is in the context of the revolt of Birsa Munda. So Munda revolt took place in 1899 and 1900. It is also given there in Sumitra Sarkar book. It is also given there in Bipin Chandra's thicker book, that is Freedom Struggle. So everywhere this particular fact is given there. So Ulgulan is very clearly mentioned there in Sumitra Sarkar book also. So Birsa Munda revolt was known as Ulgulan also. Fine. Question number 36, another interesting question. Question number 36 talks about 3 statements. So see, Panini's period was of 6th century BCE, not the era of Pushyamitra Sung, because Pushyamitra Sung was a person of Sunga dynasty who came only after the Mauryas. So of course, in any manner, Sunga dynasty and Panni period cannot be matched up. Now, had it been Patanjali, so Patanjali was contemporary to Pushyamitra Sung, and he was also in the court of Agnimitra. Fine. So Malvika Agnimitra was a very famous book at that point of time. So Patanjali was there, Panini was not there. Panini was in the era of 6th century BCE only. So in any way, first statement is incorrect. Amar Simha is associated with Harshvardhan. Of course not. Amar Simha was one of the 9 jewels in the court of Chandragupta Vikramaditya, Chandragupta II, जिसके नाम पे दिल्ली में जो आयरन पिलर है वो है. तो अमर सिम्हा उसके कोर्ट में था, हर्षवर्धन कोर्ट में नहीं थे वो. तो एनी हाउ ये भी इनकरेक्ट हुआ. कालिदास ऑफ कोर्स ही वाज इन द कोर्ट ऑफ चंद्रगुप्त II. जैसा मैंने आपको समझाया जस्ट कि चंद्रगुप्त II के कोर्ट में 9 रत्न थे, और वो 9 रत्न में अमर सिम्हा भी थे, कालिदास भी थे, उसमें बहुत सारे और भी थे, हरिसेन भी थे, धनवंतरी भी थे. तो 9 रत्न उनके कोर्ट में थे. ठीक है. तो कालिदास वाला स्टेटमेंट सही है, इसलिए आंसर यहाँ पे 3 ओनली होगा, सी ओनली. ठीक है. 1 and 2 आर इनकरेक्ट.